Welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw.
And I'm your host, David Khorshid, also known as @DavidKPNO.
And together we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions.
Yep, so we will be creating an animation or recreating an actual HTML, CSS animation from scratch live using, well, the exact same technologies, HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript.
That's right. This show is made possible by your support. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers or subscribe at twitch.tv/keyframers. The links are available below, and you may even earn some special shout-outs if you do that while we're streaming.
Yeah, and ask questions during the show. We are more than happy to answer them.
Very happy to answer them.
Yes, especially like what techniques we're using, why we're choosing to use such techniques, and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, all right, for example, we have our first question from Joe Vans or Joe Evans, or I don't know.
Something like that.
There should be a hyphen in there.
Joe.
Anyway, so he's asking, do you guys do this in advance by chance? So, no, Sean and I are huge procrastinators, and we feel like that brings some sort of flavor to the show, where we just straight up do it from scratch. We discuss for literally all of 5 minutes, like just a rough idea of how we're going to do it. But as far as actually doing it, we don't do that. We're not like those chef shows where we're like, hey, we prepared this in advance for you because we burnt our cake, and here's another one out of the oven. So no, this is all literally completely from scratch. For this one and for many others that we've done, we do a tiny bit of boilerplate, but just the very basics, nothing that really has to do with the core animation. And for this one, we just added the images on an HTML page. That's it.
That's right. As Space Age says, they risk it. And yes, that does come back to bite us sometimes. But yeah, for this one, we have just the tiniest bit of setup, just so you're not watching us selecting images from a stock site. But other than that, it's pretty much all going to be from scratch here.
Yeah.
So shall we get into what we're working on?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. It's a very festive.
Yes. So it's the most wonderful time of the year, the time of year where we get new Apple products. And one of those new Apple products is this beautiful little Apple Watch with a great new site. Now, as you scroll, you get this fancy little border reveal here. And that carries on to the next section. So the image itself is nicely is just in the flow of the document as you scroll, and then whenever it reaches the top, it locks in place and then scrolls out.
Yeah, and so
cool
there's going to be two main parts to this. The first part is the scrolling and the image, and the second part is the actual fade-in of the text. Yes. And so we were also asked by Joe Evans, are you guys doing this via Scratch, or are we using a framework? So we're not going to be using a framework. Instead, we're going to be using a library, because what we want to do is highlight just what you could do with CSS variables. And so the library we're going to be using does use CSS variables, which we could manipulate in any way. And that's going to give us the effect that we want.
That's right. So no specific framework or anything like that, but a little bit of help from the library, which we'll get into here. Should I just go right into that?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So the library in question here is Scrollout. This is a wonderful little library built by, hey, good morning, Nick. Welcome from India. So Scrollout is a little micro library. Let's see, about a kilobyte after minified and gzipped. It is not GSAP. David K. Piano is very opposed to GSAP in general.
I'm not opposed to GSAP.
You just fight it every chance you get.
Yes.
Well, yes, I think David disagrees with GSAP on many philosophical levels.
With that said, it's an excellent framework, and if you're looking to do animations in a nice, composed, easy way with primarily JavaScript, then you would use GSAP. And yeah, they do use a lot, but we want to teach you the core fundamentals, and that means sticking close to the metal. And so this is what the scroll out to library is good at, is that unlike the other scroll libraries that you might have seen in the past, like, well, what are they called? Like Scroll Magic or Scroll Spy or
Scroll Magic
like
is one of the primary ones.
Yeah.
And that is a massive beast with a lot of jQuery and GSAP integrations that can be a little strange. The beauty of something like scroll out here is it's framework independent, it's library independent, it's just a kilobyte or so, and we use chocolate JS. Yeah, that's pretty good. And it has a lot of flexibility, but most of the flexibility comes from just being able to use CSS to power a lot of these animations. So you can see as I'm scrolling through the docs here, you're getting these title reveals coming in, which is super awesome. I believe he's using my splitting library, which I don't think we'll need.
He better be
in this particular instance.
Library for library. You know, we need the synergy going on.
Exactly. But basically, yeah, it gives you CSS variables that you can use to trigger all sorts of cool animations on scroll, like this scaling gallery on scroll example here. I've copied and pasted, and then I sent the link to scroll out if you're interested in checking that out. And we're actually going to be using version 2.2 that is technically not fully released just yet, but I've been working with Christopher on this to get some additional features in there. Scroll percent, so how much of the page is completely scrolled, and then viewport X and viewport Y variables for showing how much of an element is in the viewport. So that's basically what we'll be doing. We'll explain it a little bit more as we dive in there. So here's our very basic CodePen setup. Right now, we just have a few styles in place, mainly to just size the containers how we want them, and David's usual setup of position relative everything.
The best setup.
And that's about it. And then in our HTML, we've just got a bunch of content sections with this data scroll attribute, which will help scroll out target those. And then individual images from Unsplash. Source.unsplash.com is a cool little CDN for those. And so we'll get in there and start animating those.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, just because text is also a big part of this, is I'm going to set up a CSS grid layout. All right, so there's a truck continuously backing up. So if you hear beeping, that's what it is. I don't know if this truck is just practicing its reverse driving, but that's what you hear.
That's incredible.
Anyway, yeah, incredible is a nice way of putting it. Incredibly annoying.
That's right, Joe. This can be done with CSS variables. So that's basically all we're using scroll out for at this point. Let's see. So while David is inputting some text or whatever he's doing over there,
so
I'm going to initialize
so
scroll
I'm just
out.
going to make a dot content, and I'm just thinking out loud for the we're gonna have a header. That's gonna be dot header, and I guess I'm not prefixing it with dot UI, although I could. I don't know. It's just a habit.
Yeah. I disabled the auto updating preview so I could show something in the console real quick. So just by default, scroll out just looks for data scroll attribute elements and targets them, and then just toggles data scroll from in to out when it's out of the viewport. So you can see that very top one just went out, and the one below just came in. So this alone gives you some really great targets for styling CSS. For example, we could say data scroll equals out, opacity 0, and then data scroll just in general will transition opacity 0.5 seconds linear, and then run that really quick. Break anything? Yeah, so you can see that nice fade in as we scroll. I think we need overflow hidden here. Oops. To avoid that. No, that's okay. So that you can see that nice scroll effect. So right out of the gate, you've got just a really cool setup. If we add in CSS props and then give it a give scroll out a whitelist of the props we want, like visible Y, then in target the data scroll, let's say image transform scale, go 0.8 plus 0.2 times var visible Y, and I need to make that a calc. Right, so Nick, I see the idea is that the images increase to full size as you scroll them down. The images are actually not changing size, if you notice. It's just the border around them is decreasing. I'm going to show a quick version of what you're talking about, Nick, but the actual end effect will be more this border transition. And then Joe, sorry, no, we can't actually share the code pen as we go live because unfortunately the collab mode can't be locked down just yet. CSS props, sorry, visible Y, transition, believe that's all correct. Let's see here. Nope, something. Or did David break something?
I break something?
Maybe.
No, it was you.
Close my image tag. Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay. So let's see. Oh, we do need to set image to display block because by default images are display inline block. Or display inline? Display inline block. Okay. Let's see. Might work. Oh, I know what it is. Okay. So with scroll out, you can see down here in the console, I'm getting the visible Y updates as the element goes in and out. And now I've updated the variable in the CSS, and so we should be getting that nice, beautiful effect. Yeah, so this is already pretty close to what's happening just in terms of a super simple scroll effect that's taken, what, 6-7 lines of code, something like that. So that's actually a really solid effect. Now, what has David been up to here? Creating
Just some text, some
text.
fun text. Yeah. You like my content?
Not evolved, not transformed either. Yeah, I don't think anybody was particularly wowed at this this month's Apple update.
I'm just making it. Yeah, I'm looking for those new MacBooks, which don't know where they are.
I mean, they just updated those, but yeah,
Did they?
relatively recently. All right, so
Yeah.
let's take a look here. David's going part new school, part old school, with position absolute, setting our content container to fill the whole width and height, and then display grid with 2 rows.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, I think I'm happy with my font sizes. Yeah, why not? All right, and let's also add some padding to the left and right. And I'm using viewport units here. It just makes it more scalable, I guess. There's a reason for it. I don't have to justify everything to you. Anyway, all right, so that's going to be our text. And oh wow, I'm just seeing your scrolly stuff.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool. But isn't it supposed to fill the whole screen, or did I? Oh wait.
yeah. So that was one of the things.
My bad. I added the padding. Wait, no, was that you?
So one of the things.
There's some padding on there. Yeah, weird. Why is there?
So,
oh wait, no, it's working. Just kidding.
Is it?
I just need to reload.
I'm gonna toggle off.
Apparently, when you change screen sizes, then weird things happen. But the image isn't filling the entire screen.
So I did that up here. Object fit cover. Do we have to set width and height 100% there? Yeah, I think so. Outline solid 1 pixels red. Actually, let's do border. Okay, yeah, we've. Oh, I know what it is. I'm setting height 100% viewport width. That should be 100% viewport height. There we go. Okay, that's more the effect we want.
Mm-hmm. It's weird. I don't see the text in some of the things. Did I? Oh, I just forgot to copy it. Wow. simplest mistake. No worries. I'm glad it's as simple as that. We've made many more embarrassing mistakes in this show, so
yes,
there's that. All right, so
I like
so
how on top of it Joe Vans is. That's very very helpful.
Yeah. So now there's another part to this whole scrolling business. As cool as this is, number one, the images sort of are supposed to stick.
Right.
So let's talk about how we could do that.
And the content itself sticks as well. So let's say these content areas, these content sections are maybe 140 high. And that
well, so the content doesn't stick. It definitely scrolls naturally, but the images stick once you get to a certain point. So
right. So let's say so we've got the container being a little bit higher than the actual viewport, which we want. And then one thing we can do really simply is with our data scroll, we can say when data scroll equals in, let's do content section, data scroll equals in image position fixed.
I turned auto updating preview back on. Oh, hey, you got it, except it's not full width.
Yeah, that's not exactly what we want, is it?
No.
Okay, one thing there is a threshold variable in scroll out that might be helpful. Let's see, configuration. Let's do 0.2. That's not exactly what we want, because it has to be when it's reached, when it's scrolled all the way in. So not until it's scrolling out, basically. Maybe trickier. Any thoughts on that?
On what, getting it to full width?
No. So
because it's not full width.
well, currently the triggering over to position fixed is rather fast. That's not exactly.
So fixed is breaking things.
Right.
AGI, sorry.
Let's do that, and we don't need.
So what we could do is give each section a little bit more space, you know? Well, actually, no, because it only stays fixed at a certain point, but then it scrolls.
Right.
So, yeah. So we have to figure out how we could do that.
Right.
So this is what turns what starts off as a simple animation into something that's definitely a lot more complex.
Yeah. Well, first, should we tackle the border portion of it, so that we can?
Oh yeah, the inverse scaling, right? Sure. Yeah. So let's see, data scroll, visible Y.
Yes, and there are other variables that we can tap into if we need. That I've just whitelisted that particular one.
All right. So right now you're just scaling the image, right?
Right, the image
and
itself.
So
yeah.
Yeah. So what if we applied this instead to the it would have to be this section, right? Let's see what happens there. Nothing happens. What happened there? Dot content section.
Are you wanting to do the section itself? Scale the section itself?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not the section, just whatever's containing the image. So I think in the HTML, what we could do is I could add a container div for each of those images.
Yeah.
And so I'll just be semantic as hell and call it figure.
Yes, using position sticky is a good idea.
How we might do that. Right, so I added a class figure to contain the image, because it's a figure. So.
Okay.
And so the figure is going to be what scales out. And at the same time, the image is going to scale in, right?
Okay.
So yeah, we just need to make sure that that figure, so this doesn't time, this, let's see, dot figure, that's going to be with 100%, height 100%. Position absolute, of course. 0, left 0.
Yeah. That's why I don't like the carrots. The immediate
I
sibling.
figured.
Okay, so one
Well,
thing.
what we could do, since this is a attribute of the figure, we could just have this over there, and then and this could just be over there. No problem. No carrots. See?
We probably want it at least nested to figure so that all images on the page aren't specifically
the carrot.
Carrots. Okay, so yes. One thing with figure to always remember is there's usually a default margin involved. So we need to.
Yeah, it's a feature.
It's something. And so I've removed that. Let me this pane here. So I've got position sticky, but I believe there are issues with parent overflow hidden. I forget what the caveat is there with sticky.
With what?
With position sticky.
I'm sure there is one.
Yeah, let's pull up some documentation here. Using dash to look up some documentation.
Did I break everything?
I may have accidentally backspaced something. Position sticky.
Because now we're getting no more scroll animations, so.
Well, can't help you there. Sticky.
Yay, documentation. It's a lifesaver.
Yeah. This is a
but also
app
something
called
definitely
Dash.
stopped working.
Yeah, sorry. I may have accidentally backspaced over something while. Now I have had issues with unitless values before.
You've been hurt before.
I have.
Well, see, yeah, I just want to get that inverse in there
right.
as well.
That.
So
let me see. That doesn't specifically seem to be it though. So that should be scaling. Let's see. I break. The documentation is an app called Dash, and it pulls up the MDN documentation. And I'll get back to that.
Okay, I got it working.
You did? Okay. There we go. Okay. Bless you.
Thank you. I'm allergic to position fixed. So.
Hey, there we go. So you can see as we scroll. Let's make that a little more dramatic. 8 plus 2.
Wow, the magic of CSS variables.
Yes.
Yeah, so the tricky thing is going to be it sticking.
Yes.
We need it to stick.
Right, and I'm trying to remember the caveat here, but first I'm celebrating our victory of getting this effect working.
Well, almost. I just started scrolling and it just stopped working. So
I think you're having some issues over there. You might need to refresh.
Yeah, I'll refresh. Everyone could use a refresh. There we go. Wait, no.
Because it's working just fine over here.
Works on your machine.
Yes.
All right.
Problem exists between keyboard and user, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay. All right, so let me get back into the documentation here. Thrilling streaming, I know. nearest scrolling ancestor and container block. Is it because you position absolute everything?
What? Why would I do that?
Let's see. Let's gear height 100 height. Let's see if border solid 2 pixels red. So it does have top 0 and left 0. Moving that quick.
Yeah, I promise you, I'm not getting. Maybe position fixed is weird on my thing, but I'm not getting that zooming.
Well, nothing's fixed here.
Right, it's all broken.
It's very strange. So yeah, it does have top 0 on sticky. Let's go into inspection and see here. Figure. Sticky.
So when you scroll, you see the effects, right?
Yep.
That's weird because I do not.
Let me save and copy everything here and refresh just to make sure we're both seeing the same thing. We haven't had any really like that. Yeah, working just fine. Now, yeah, it is stopping after a point.
That's it. I'm trying this in Firefox because it just refuses to work. It's really, really, really weird.
Yeah, it was working just fine a minute ago. So it's working on the initial.
And now my computer sounds like a jet engine. So,
It's working on that
okay,
initial.
now it sort of works. It might be because of the sheer sizes of the computers too.
Yeah, I tried to be reasonable.
Don't mind me.
They're just 1,000 by 1,000. Auto refresh
all
is
40,000 by 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
500 by 500.
So let's just try not doing the nested calc quick. Take the transform off image. Let's see.
Yep, super weird.
Yeah.
Oh wait, now it's working a little bit. But all right, so did you see what I did? I increased the size to 200 viewport height in hopes that, you know.
Oh, okay. Well, that just means we have to update the calculation down here because visible y is only going to be partial because it's it can only be, yeah, there we go. Okay. All right, so that's part of it. One thing I did was I explicitly set figure to being just 100 viewport height, so that's why it's cutting off there. And okay, I need to add the transition back, or the transform. Yeah, it's possibly an issue with the overflow hidden there in terms of sticky. Try this all again.
Yeah, let me throw in a few
Okay, yep.
change transforms.
There we go. Okay. Hey, give that a try.
Okay.
Because that's basically exactly what we want.
Let's see. Will change transform.
Nice.
Throw a few of those in there. Change transform.
Okay.
You have the latest Chrome? Oh wow,
I do.
this is perfect.
Yep, basically already there. So yeah, I can take off that background black.
Yeah.
We don't need that. Can take off our borders.
Awesome. So you'll definitely have to explain that to me, just because I had a whole snafu of it not working at all for me.
Okay.
Like
so
the animation, but we'll do that at the review section.
Yeah.
Now, what I would love to do, well, there's two things I'd love to do. First is the very basic, where we have the fade in of the text, and so we could use the exact same CSS variables to fade in that text. And so we have a thing where like we get like it's visible in the viewport, right? Like once an element is visible in the viewport, does the scrolling library provide that scroll out?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Does scroll out provide something that says, "Hey, this element is now visible in the viewport"?
Yes, that's what the the data scroll attribute does.
But do we have like a Boolean? I wonder if that could be a feature request. So just like 0 or 1. Like one
yes.
thing is visible.
Yes, there is. Let me see what that CSS props viewport.
Or does it like give us a
visible
data attribute?
Yes, the data attribute I've been telling you about, data scroll equals in, or data scroll equals out.
Wow.
There's
shows how much research I did with this library. But anyway,
there is also a CSS variable that's just visible. That's 1 if it's visible, or 0 if it's not.
But it goes between 1 and 0.
No,
that's
it's only 1 or 0 if you want.
Oh, and that's available.
Yes.
That's awesome. But I'm thinking we could use the data scroll equals in just to do a simple little animation on the text. So
yeah,
we could add that to the content section over at the top, and data scroll equals in. By the way, after this, and I guess this is the teaser for everyone else, I just found the perfect library name for NPM if we want to make some more of these CSS variable animation libraries. So just remind me to tell you that, and maybe we'll have it in future episodes, because yeah, I think that having these kinds of libraries is really, really useful, and sort of the future of doing these really reactive CSS animations.
Yes, CSS
so
variables
I have
open so many doors.
Perfect library name for you. It's like a shining beacon of real estate that has not been touched yet.
We'll write it down so we don't forget it.
It's extremely easy to remember. And this is just a teaser for everyone else.
Did that truck just honk now?
Yeah, it's whenever we have a successful animation, it honks.
Beep beep.
Anyway, so we have data scroll equals in, and so we could animate just the content. So we could just say, well, let's also have this and data scroll equals out. Now, I love this because it sort of models a, finite state machine. You know, it could only be in one state.
Yes.
So thankfully, the library wasn't like, oh, we'll just add a data scroll in class or whatever. It's actually a single data attribute that could only be one value at a time.
Yes.
And so it's really helpful. So when data scroll equals out, we could just say opacity 0 when for the content. And when data scroll equals in, we could say opacity 1, just for starters.
Wait.
right? And
You
then,
really don't even have to specify the opacity. Because you
but what if I want like 0.75?
Right. So you would set that here, 0.75, and that's the default state opacity. 0.75 transition opacity, 0.6 seconds linear. So the reason I set it up this way is if you this is always going to be how your content should be presented, opacity 0.75. And then if JavaScript is enabled, and if everything loads correctly, and if the library triggers correctly, then you get your data scroll equals out, setting that to opacity 0 until it scrolls in. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah. And actually, what we probably want to do there is use one of these intersect variables, and I'll show you what that will do.
Intersect.
Yes.
All right. So does that use what I think it uses?
It does not use intersection observer.
Okay.
But it does do something fancy here. So let's just comment this all out, and then we can say here opacity calc var intersect y. Actually, this may not fully work because of how see 1 plus sect. Let me see. I gotta look in the console here and remember how it's working. So sect y. Oh, that's just a toggle.
What happened?
Give me just a moment. That's what it is. Right?
Now it just sort of disappears when
yeah, I think
which is a feature, I guess.
Viewport. I think that's what it is. Viewport y. Sorry. Explain more of this as I get it resolved.
I changed the one to a minus, by the way. Sorry about that.
Okay. So what we'll want to do is not transition that because it'll be tied directly to scroll. Now you can see what's happening is it's slowly fading out as you scroll away, which is because that viewport y variable that I added in shows, go to the documentation, the vertical position relative to the center of the port. And I believe that goes all the way from -1 to 1. Let's see. Yeah, so we have to do something. Yep. And there we go. Okay. So that allows the content to fade in. Doing the fade out might be a bit tricky, but for now, it's a pretty solid effect. Does that make sense, what I did?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's probably a better way to do that. It should be an absolute value, ideally, to do that. We could potentially do visible. The divided by 2, yeah. Sorry.
Oops, I had that divide by 2.
Oh, that's okay.
I thought it would work.
That's all right. Let's do that. Visible. Oh yeah, that's not gonna precisely work. That needs to be 0.8. Nope. Sorry. We'll go back to that. Divided by 2, and then we'll do 0.5 here.
No, but that thing goes a little too slowly. It's always the math stuff that we get like really tripped up on.
Yeah, you'd think we'd be better about that by now. But let me actually go back to the site. Does the text actually fade out? Yeah, the text doesn't fade out. The text just scrolls out. So we're actually matching the the site. So
perfect. I mean, that's our goal.
All right, so it looks like you were setting up for the transform animation.
Yes, I was. Yeah, and that's because when it's visible, it sort of does a slide up thing, even though you're already sliding up, but it's just a cool effect where just, more. And so that I was thinking of using like this whole data scroll out, data scroll in type of thing, or just the data scroll out, I suppose. Except the problem is that since we are 2 times the height, it starts to become visible pretty early.
Right.
Or it starts to transition pretty early.
And that actually, yeah, just slow that down. So one thing I did just now was adjusted the threshold. Let's see.
Yeah, well, now that looks a little weird.
Yeah, so one thing we can do is use our viewport Y variable if we want. And addition calc percent times var. The transition, got the transform, and this will kind of tie it to the scroll, which is probably not exactly what we want. Yeah, that just kind of makes it feel slippery.
Yeah, I dig it.
You like it?
But I'm not seeing a transition every single time. Oh wait, no, it sort of does.
Yeah, it's not quite flying in the way that wanting. Let's go back to this.
Yeah.
So one thing we can do. Let me go back to the scroll out documentation here to remember configuration targets. Do this targets. Actually, I guess that's not fully necessary. One thing we can do is add data scroll to the content itself.
Oh, okay. So that is a thing you could do.
And that'll give us more direct control. Let's see. Yeah, ideally, you would only apply this to a few elements, especially if you're doing a lot of CSS variables. You don't want that to get too out of hand.
Yeah, so now when the page reloads, it just sort of like comes in, then comes down. Sort of interesting effect.
Right. So one thing we can do with that is let me see. I believe it's the intersect x variable or intersect y variable. That gives you -1 for going out of the top, and negative and 1 for going out of the bottom. It's actually reversed here, so that the translation can happen from the area it's coming from, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so many useful variables in there.
Indeed. So
yeah.
Let's see.
All right, so let's undo what we had, just because it's sort of like chopping off at the bottom, which...
Well, okay, so what we want here, content, gotta scroll itself, and let's clean up that, close this out, see everything a little bit better. Okay. Whoop. What? It's very strange.
Yeah, did we change the height of the content section? Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, well, what is scroll length again?
No. Oh, good. No, you want to leave that at 100. Let's just do this as 10%. Let me see what's happening there. Okay. I think that's what we're seeing. Okay. So the CSS only wouldn't work quite right there. We would need that extra variable of intersect y to show us if it's going in or out. Let me enable that really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. So intersect y shows 1. Probably not what we need. It's almost the first good gravy. It won't be the last. I can assure you that.
Yeah, so
okay, and
yeah,
my
this
threshold
is
is off.
Yeah, it's tricky because it's only happening for the first one, sort of, and then really the other
Well,
ones.
I think that's because of the height of them. Let me change the scroll length here, and that's why I set that as a variable.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. And no, it's still not really doing it for the others. So.
Okay.
But what we could do, we could take some artistic creativity and instead base the transform y on, or sorry, translate y on the scroll position. And so, like, just based on its visibility. And so instead of actually trying to do a transition, instead just straight up having it related to that. So actually, that would sort of cause sort of a parallax thing.
Yeah, the issue is with the image becoming sticky. You don't really see it. I kind of tried that earlier using the variable.
Okay.
That's what this transform is right there.
All right,
if,
well, then I have a third option for you.
well, let me
And
enable that. And
it's something that would be really cool. And I'm going to post it in the chat just so you all can see. It's this sort of text effect. So we're sort of combining two ideas, and we could use splitting for this. So
yeah, pull that up.
want to give it a try?
Oh, good gravy.
All we have to do, it's one line of splitting. Let me tell you how easy splitting is.
I believe you. I believe you.
Yeah? What do you think?
Well, let me get this in place first, or let's do a slight bit of cleanup here. Okay, and we'll remove that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And we can actually go back to longer scroll length. Why are you hating on our scroll effect now, Nick? It's beautiful. Okay.
Oh, okay. So what? Still less awesome? Well, we're going to make it more awesome. And so you might think it's scroll jacking, but there's a difference between what we're doing, or like what the Apple site does, and actual scroll jacking. So scroll jacking would be the browser overrides the normal behavior of your scroll, which means, for example, it adds its own momentum to scrolling. It changes the speed of scrolling. It just manipulates the natural scrolling somehow. And that's bad. What we're doing over here is not that. Instead, we are showing animations based on the normal natural scroll position. So I guess the difference between scroll jacking and what we call scrolly telling or storytelling, scrolly telling, is that scroll jacking changes your natural scroll. Scrolly telling works with your natural scroll, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I don't think
I
we're
get
committing any crimes here.
No. Yeah, my rule of thumb is you don't want to override a default behavior. Like you don't want to suddenly make spacebar do something completely different than scroll on the page, because there are many users who rely on that. Same with just native scroll functions. You want everything to work as the user expects, especially from an accessibility perspective. There are so many different devices out there and methods for users to actually interact with your page that you don't really want to take anything away from them. So by just tapping into an update of what their built-in functionality is, you just enhance it with some visual goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So hand gestures, keyboard functions, those are all things that will work with this method. That's exactly what we're implementing this for.
I'm having some fun over here. Don't mind me.
I see that. No, I like that fade. That's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, I dig it. Definitely helps with readability. Okay. So, all right. So you
And
want
we just use CSS variables for that too.
Yeah. So.
All right. Where's my splitting?
Splitting. All right. Let's do. Let me get that in
By the way, the whole not evolved, not transformed either is not a knock on Apple. I'm just trying to be clever with the text. And it's sort of an allusion to what we do with CSS and JavaScript, where we try to make these innovative animations using the platform. So basically using as close to natural CSS, JavaScript, HTML as possible.
Yes.
So
my
in this case, CSS variables.
My recommendation here for how many things we're actually going to be CSS varring on scroll is to just do chars for the heading instead of doing it for all of them. And I can actually...
Okay, yeah, sure, let's do that. So we're going to do splitting on each of those headings.
I've just adjusted the target down here so that we
Cool. So we're combining two completely separate CSS variable libraries. We're combining splitting and scroll out. And so we are going to, based on the scroll Y position, sort of do a staggered inward, like do like a staggered upward animation of each of those characters.
Yes. So. And so this is the demo that David sent over. All right, so let's go start a new section here so that we don't write anything. Okay, you're already
visible Y. But what would the variable be? Y.
Thanks, Nick. Visible Y. And then times, well, yeah, you're going to want to calc that. Times var, char index, potentially. I know you hate this, but it really helps with readability when you start getting into all this. Times.
Oh. You're using M's. Okay, fine. Fine. Did that work?
Well, so I didn't include the CS.
This looks great, but it's sort of a proof of concept that it works.
Right. So what we might want here instead is viewport Y. Oh, gravy.
Oh, wow. Are you sure not visible Y? All right, so let's think this through.
As you scroll, and then see with viewport Y, it's 0 at centered in the viewport. So we just lessen the effect here. You can see what.
Yeah.
See what I mean? And actually, let's go ahead and include the splitting CSS so we get access to a few more variables. Splitting CSS. So we can do var char %, and then we can kind of set our maximum upward threshold here. And you get a much more subtle effect.
Yeah, except we still get the weird going up, but that's okay. Honestly, that's fine with me.
Yeah, we could do it. Let me see. So viewport Y. Let me just inspect and make sure I'm right there.
Well, let's see. I'm trying to think of the math here. So we could also viewport Y. Because what if we make it so that like it doesn't? Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, so viewport Y goes from -1 to 1. -1 being the bottom of the viewport. Okay. And then 1 being the top of the viewport. So in theory, if we add or if we subtract 1, then we might get what you're referring to. If we divide by 2, get 0.5, negative 0.5 plus. Okay.
Yeah, if only we could get the the transition working like we tried to do before, that would be a lot better. But yeah, it happened.
So do here. I mean,
yeah, it definitely does that whole upward thing. That's okay.
Yeah. Can't think of anything. Hey, what podcast did you hear about us on? Yeah, I'm not immediately sure of a way that we could only have it on.
Let me
entrance,
think of
basically.
the math here. All right, so thinking of the math. So right now we have magnitude times var viewport y. What I'm thinking is right now it's sort of doing a negative 1 to 1 type of thing, or 1 to negative 1, whatever. But if we subtract something, which is probably half of the viewport y, then we might be able to,
Oh yeah.
Viewport.
Yeah, our code
Like,
pen
this is a
interview with Marie.
That was but let's see what happens. And did I break it?
I think let's see.
Or is it just freaking out of us?
It might just be super subtle. Try bumping this up. You know, I really don't understand why you're so opposed to ems. They're basically CSS variables before CSS variables were a thing.
Oh, for whatever reason, yeah, my scrolling stopped. Oh wait, shoot, I don't know.
It's just whatever this is not it's not kosher.
Well, all right. If I get rid of this, it's not going to animate at all still. So there's something else happening, or at least maybe just on my machine.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
it's working over here.
Okay, so let's add this again, and see what happens.
Nothing.
Nothing.
I think something's off with that. Let's see. This is why I start entering out. Yeah. See? There we go. Got something. Are you seeing them just
still
kind of randomly
exactly
staggered? Because I'm not getting actual animation now. Let's see.
Oh, okay. So maybe I have to add instead. You know, if we add instead, then that might be it.
Oh. Let's see. Yeah, it's not exactly changing. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. Let's see.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's still happening on the way out because I think that's just increasing the amount. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah, and then that just takes it down.
I mean, right now it's subtle enough that it's it's fine. It works as an effect. So
Well,
yeah,
then all we need to do there is just take this down and we get a much more
yeah,
value, or just, yeah, work.
yeah. All right. So
Very
that's all
last,
good.
the very last one is doing some weird things. Let me reload a little bit and see. Nice.
Well, I think for the general effect, we got it. Got a pretty good point. So
Definitely. I am gonna lower, let's see, that a little bit here. And then, yeah, I think we're at a good spot. Sorry, I'm just
yeah.
tweaking
So
a little
what are you
bit
tweaking
here.
with? Okay. Just doing a little
Yeah,
tweaking.
I just wanted a little bit of the text to be visible, to encourage the user to start scrolling. Okay. And actually, one thing we could do. Oh, I lost you, David. Are you there? David, come in.
I'm there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he disappeared briefly. Great. Almost lost him.
So one thing we could do, opacity. We could do
Yeah.
opacity with that instead, and that might be more of the subtle effect you're looking for. I think we have to add one calc one, and
Okay, so we're basically changing the I
right.
gotcha.
I think you were looking for a little more subtlety. One
Yeah.
plus that, that.
Well, it would be one plus or minus, or right now it's not. Oh, yeah, that is a nice effect.
Mm-hmm.
I see it. All right, I dig it.
And then
Let's
that.
ship it.
Okay. So yeah, there we go.
Cool.
All right. So shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see if my animation will work here. It's not been working the past few times, and I do not know why. Well, this is the part of the show known as Keyflections, where we give a quick review of the techniques we've used to build this animation so far. If you have any questions, this is a great time to ask us in the chat, so chime in. We'll be happy to answer.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you've enjoyed watching us so far, follow, subscribe here on Twitch or YouTube. We're also on Twitter at Keyframers. You could also pledge at patreon.com/keyframers. Links are below.
Yeah, there might be a connection issues. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's go back and check out our inspiration here. So Apple released Apple Watch Series 4. Hooray. Everyone is excited to get notifications on another screen.
Yeah. And by the way, this is a beautiful animation that was done. And this is like one of those that we actually didn't do it from a dribble. So I feel like we've had a couple other episodes like this where we actually took a real life site design. We didn't actually check the code behind it, exactly. But this one has a lot of interesting techniques to it as well. Like if you really dig into the actual website, For example, you see that the developer used used four separate border divs in order to animate that instead of doing the inverse scaling. And so what those four separate borders do instead of the inverse scaling is that you could animate each one of those individually. And even though it takes more div elements to do that, which some of you might think is a bad thing, but it's really not. I mean, it's basically free unless you're rendering thousands and thousands.
Yeah,
Um,
especially since they're using a video as the background, I can see
right, yeah.
why those would be a lot more performant.
Right. So with your border elements, number one, they're more versatile. Number two, it's like the best way to do the whole video thing without having to do clipping or anything. And also, you get just the freedom of animation. You could animate like the width and the height, at different rates and get sort of a Google Material Design sort of feel. Lots of possibilities with that. So I thought that that was a pretty clever technique.
Is and we came up with our
Right.
own clever technique here. So one one of the easiest ways for us to just get up and going with this was to use the library scroll out. You can find the links back in the chat, but it's a great little library by Christopher Wallace. Sorry if I got the last name wrong. I always forget. That is just phenomenal, and it mostly uses CSS variables and data attributes to enable all kinds of scroll effects. So I've got that included here, version 2.2.2, which will be out soon, but you can find it on NPM and Unpackage. The documentation is being updated. So called here, just scroll out. We don't even need the threshold there. And then we're just telling it to apply these specific CSS props. And then up in our HTML, we have a data scroll, and you can see whenever we are scrolling through the document, data scroll equals in, toggles to data scroll equals out, and elements toggle to data scroll equals in as you go, giving us a nice finite state machine kind of approach.
Yeah.
And we also have the CSS props here: visible Y, true, and viewport Y, true. Visible Y gives us a range of the element's visibility from 0 to 1. Viewport Y gives us the amount it's visible within the viewport. So hanging off the bottom edge or the top edge, or completely within the viewport. 0 being completely centered there. So you want to explain how we
Yeah.
did the images?
Yeah, so the images, we did this technique in previous episodes too, and it's called the inverse scaling technique. And so what happens is, let's go over to image. We have this scale, CSS variable, and so we're basing that on that same dynamic scalable Y. And so, that value from 0 to 1, of course, um, that's going to determine our scale value. And what's happening is that this figure is scaling in. And of course, when it scales in, all of its content scales in as well. Now, that's fine and dandy. However, we want to give the illusion that the image is not changing size. And so to do that, we take the inverse of the scale. All that is 1 divided by that scale. And so if it's 0.5, then actually that's a bad example. If it's like 0.75, then it would be 1 over 0.75, so it would be the inverse. And so it would basically be the image looking like it's the same size. And so just to show the versatility, we use that same variable to add a little background color opacity. I'm sure there was a better way to do this. I could have probably used opacity for that, but YOLO.
It's a fantastic effect. I dig it. Yeah, opacity would probably be a cheaper
More performance. Yeah.
choice there.
Yeah, we could refactor later.
Yeah.
Or right now. All you need is fair visible Y and then RGBA. What's RGBA black 0.5. This will probably be terrible.
Something like that.
Oh no, it works. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And I was trying to get, let me see, for some reason that, are you getting a weird kind of scroll effect now? I was trying to make it so that the first section had a margin at the top, but that doesn't seem to be working very well. Let's just leave it as is. Maybe we'll add a content section right above it after the stream.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're just doing 110%.
Yeah.
Right now.
All right. So we also have the content fading using the viewport Y variable, so that as it gets into the center, it becomes fully transparent.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives a nice tie-in to the scroll. So that beautiful effect. Make sure that's what we're using down here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty nice effect.
X, do this. Plus. I feel like our char effect is not working as fully. I think it's just
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I see it. I know it's a subtlety.
Okay. Let me see. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Anything else we need to cover? Oh, sorry. With that, yeah, we're using splitting. A little library, just targeting those specific headings, giving a really subtle opacity fade in to that based on the character index or the character percent, so that the individual characters fade in kind of slowly, which is nice.
Yeah, just like we did last episode.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a fun episode. Go check that out. Yeah, we did a bunch of lightning lightning animations.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Anything else?
Yeah, so I also thought about like every episode, just highlighting a cool code pen or cool profile or just someone awesome in the animation community. And so this is random, but here is Gabrielle Wee.
Yes.
You might know her for some of her animations. She actually, I met her over at CSS DevConf the other year, and she got a free ticket because she created a winning animation. They sort of did like this animation contest, and so she did some really, really cool detailed animations. So she does a lot of cool work, and she is our CodePen profile of the week.
Yeah. Gabrielle does have some really awesome stuff. Sorry, that sound wasn't at her. It was at Chrome's full screen update has broken a lot of things for me. Ooh, looks like a good one. Yeah, definitely go check out her profile. Give her some hearts there, because that is some stellar work.
Because it's our goal to give you lots of inspiration from many different sources, not just us.
Right.
Because the only inspiration you're getting from us is puns. So that's what we're good at.
Yes. Yes. So definitely check out Gabrielle's work, and we'll bring this to a close, I suppose.
Yeah.
And get back to animation here. Sorry for the dropped frames throughout the night, but if you're watching this on the replay, you won't even notice because I've got this recorded. So you've been watching.
What you just said, if you're watching.
Right, just ignore us. You've been watching Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to see more from David and I, there are many ways you can support us. You can find all of these links and all of these things at keyframe.rs, and you can subscribe there to get a notification when we have some news that should be coming out shortly. You can also pledge at patreon.com/keyframers to support us each month, and that is a huge help.
Yeah, and we do accept submissions for future episodes. So this submission was by Cobra Winfrey, I guess this is Twitter handle.
Adam K. Cobra Winfrey.
Yeah.
Goes by both.
Coon, Cobra Winfrey. So thank you for this. We were wrestling between a few animations, and we decided to do this one because it's very topical. And so I guess you can be the next submitter of the next animation. So
that's right.
Just watch out for that one.
Yeah. Well,
failed pun. Try to work that in.
Watch what you're doing, David. We gotta gotta keep to the time. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. So glad you've joined us and have chatted along with us. Y'all have been a huge help. Be sure to share this video and the demo link across all your social platforms. And thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, adios, amigos.
Adios.